Over the past several days, we've been talking about slope and how you can find the slope of a line. We talked about the different types of slopes, the positive, negative, the zero slope, and the no slope. And then we talked about how you can look at a graph and count from point to point to find the slope. Here's an example, rough draft here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, let's say we have a point here at 2, 2, and we have a point at -4, 1. And I want to find the slope of this line. Now, what type of slope is this, where it starts high and goes low? Starts high and goes low. Negative slope. So when we find the actual slope, it better be a negative fraction, right? Okay, because the slope or the slant is negative. It starts high and it goes low. So the way that you find the slope on a graph, if you just want to count, we have found out the slope is equal to rise, how far you go up, over run. All right, rise over run. So you can start at either point and move to the other point. So what we're going to do is say, this is my house, this is my friend's house, I want to travel there. I have to rise, which means I need to go up or down like this. And then here's my pathway that I'm going to go to her house. So I'm going to rise 1, 2, 3. I'm going to rise a +3. And then I look at my watch. I need to run to her house. I'm at the corner and I turn and run 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I run 6, but if you notice, this is a negative direction, so it's a -6. And the only thing I need to do from here is to simplify this fraction. And so the slope will be a -1/2. What did we say? That the fraction needs to be a negative because the slope is a negative, right? Okay, now these are quick reviews of what we've been doing over the week. If you need to see more of this and more examples, you can go back to the YouTube videos. So we found out that we can find the slope by just looking at a graph and counting the rise and run between the 2 points. The next way that we have been looking at is if they just give you 2 points, the coordinates of 2 points, not a graph, then we found out, here's an example. Say they gave us 5, -2, and they gave us this point, 2, 1. And we're supposed to find the slope between these 2 points. The line that goes through these 2 points, I want to find the slope. Okay, and so we found out that we have a formula that we can use to find the slope. M is going to be referring to slope all the way through this section. So if you see M, that means slope, and that will come into play here when we talk about the equation today. All right. Okay, and so we have X and Y. The coordinates of a point, the first coordinate in this point is always the X value, always the Y value. X value, Y value. Since we're going to be using both of those points, we don't want the X's to get mixed up or the Y's to get mixed up. So we simply number them. Here's 1s and here's 2s. You can use 16 and 24 if you want. I like 1s and 2s. So here's the formula. All I have to do is copy and substitute values into this formula. So I have now that the slope equals y2, the value of y2 is 1 minus y1. And remember, this minus has to do with this. And then when I put in the value of y1, it is a negative. So I also have -2. I'm looking for the value of x2. So I have 2. And then there's a minus in the formula. And then x1. All I have to do from here is simple math. I find out what the answer is to the top, remembering that 2 negatives make a positive. So I have 3 on top. 2 minus 5, if you'll remember, we're subtracting too much. So my answer is going to be a negative. Because I have 2 cookies, I can't give away 5. That's too much. So it's a -3. Y'all see? And then we need to simplify this, which means anything divided by itself is 1. And so the slope here is simply -1, or it would be -1/1. Again, this is explained in our former YouTubes. So if you want to see extra work on that and extra examples, go back to YouTube. And then today, this is a third way that you can find the slope, is if they give you the equation of a line. So let's do this. This is today's assignment. All right. So let's say this is our model that we go by. I want you to understand this model, because not only is it going to allow us to find the slope for today, but it is also going to be our tool to graph a line later on. Just from seeing this, I'll be able to graph a line on the graph. Okay, so make sure that this is in your notes. Okay, notice that this is solved for y. Y is by itself. If it is, then the number, the coefficient that is in front of the x does not include the x. Just the coefficient in front is the slope. That number is the slope when you have your equation of a line in this form. I'm going to go ahead and tell you the other part of this, the b, and we'll use this later, but I want you to write it down. The b value, including its sign, will be the y-intercept. This is very important. We're going to use this form of the equation of a line. We're going to use this a lot, okay? So the number that's in front of the x, the coefficient here, will always just be the slope. You just have to write it down. And this number, including its sign, will be the y-intercept, okay? So what was I going to say here? Oh, this form of a line, you will see this line, these numbers all mixed up in a different form. This is the most common form, and this is called the slope-intercept. Form of a line. So anytime you see this, where the x doesn't have anything, have an exponent larger than 1, the invisible 1, then this makes a straight line. I wonder where they got this name, the slope-intercept equation of a line. Okay, slope-intercept equation of a line. So the main thing that you need to remember is when we're trying to find the slope from an equation that they give us, you can pick it out in front of the x only if it's solved for y first. Okay, everybody understand? Because that's where we're going to have our largest amount of instruction today. Questions online? Remote people, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm pretty good.
I'm okay.
I'm going to put this up here so we will remember. It has to be in this form. So let's say I want you to, this is what you're going to be doing on page 10. So I'm going to give you this. And I want you to tell me what is the slope of this line if it was graphed on the graph. What is the slope? 1/2. Okay, because it's solved for y, and this is the coefficient in front of the x. So the slope is 1/2. Y'all see? Not bad, right? And what about slope equals?
-3/2.
-3/2. Thanks, Josh. Easy enough, right? Okay.
Oh,
Okay, you're with me, right? Okay, now some of the questions on here will not be solved.
If there's a y in front, it'll always be the number in front of the coefficient.
The coefficient in front of the x, yes.
Yes.
If the y is solved for. Sorry. Now, some of the problems that you're given will not be solved for y, so it's going to be up to you to solve for y. Okay? So let's say we have, I was going to tell you to try again because I saw you right before you went off. Okay? Bye-bye. Let's do -12. So now we may have problems like this. Notice that this is not the slope because this is not, the y is not by itself. It's not solved for y yet, right? Okay, so this is where the new stuff will probably come in for most of you, is solving for y. Now, it's not unlike just solving equations that we've been doing for a while. Let me let her in real quick. Okay. So what we do, remember, we always put a line down through the equal sign. Remember these steps? And we circle y because that's what we want to solve for. So it looks like we're going to need to get rid of this 5. We're going to need to get rid of this 2x. Okay. In this case, we don't have to get rid of the 2 and then the x because we want this whole thing gone. So I'm going to get rid of this x stuff first. Okay. Now, usually when you saw best friends together, you know to divide. But if you divide here, that means it'll leave the x here. And I don't want the x left here. I don't want to split this up. I want the whole, yes, I want the whole thing gone. So in this case, it's a positive 2x. And in order to get rid of that positive 2x, I need to subtract. Now remember, whatever you do to one side has to be done to the other. Do this for me. When you come over here and you're going to put your minus 2x, please do not put it under here. Because if you put a minus 2x here, there's a good chance you'll forget and try to do 12 and 2 and get an answer. But this is just a constant. It doesn't have an X in it, and this does. You can't put those together. So what I do when I bring this 2X over is to remind myself that it has its own little spot. Okay? Don't put it directly under here because you'll fall in that little trap. All right? So we've subtracted the 2X from both sides. So now we need to look and see what we have left and see what we still need to do. Of course, this zeroes out, so I have a negative 5y equals negative 12, watch your negatives, minus 2x. Are you guys okay with that part? You just brought it down, and you have to bring these down separately. Now, we still circle the y because we've got to stay focused that we're going to leave the y alone and get rid of the negative 5. In this case, I want to split these up. And so I'm going to, since that's multiplied, I'm going to divide by negative 5. Divide by negative 5. But when I do it on this side, I've got to do the other side, negative 5. I'm going to divide by negative 5. Now, a lot of teachers teach it this way, but I think it may become confusing because you need to take this divided by negative 5 and this divided by negative 5. So what I do is remind myself again, and I just show it on every piece. Okay, I got you. All right. So instead of putting one line and negative 5 and expecting you to remember, I just put the negative 5 under each piece. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Okay. All right. So now we're going to see what we have left. The negatives cancel each other out. The 5s cancel each other out to 1. So I'm going to have 1y equals, the negatives cancel each other out. If there's only one negative, leave the negative. I have 12/5. You can just do that as a fraction. Again, the minus and the negative cancel, and I have plus 2x. Okay, so right now I have the y solved. It's by itself, right? So this is really good. If you want it to be exactly like the model, then we need to switch the places here.
No.
Okay, and that's all we're going to do. And so now we have y equals, I'm going to write the x first and then this, 2/5 x plus 12/5. Now, the fractions don't have to worry you because all I want to know, what is the slope now? I have moved this and arranged it, and so I have the y by itself, and that's what I need. So tell me what the slope of this line is. 2/5, yes. 2/5, not 2/5 x, but 2/5 is the slope. The rise is 2, the run is 5. Okay? Of this line. And that's all you're going to have to do today is remember and practice solving these equations for y and then picking out the slope. Let's do some more. Now these today, I'll do some on the worksheet, but right now I'm just making these up because we can do anything we want to do. Let's do x minus 7y equals, let's make it weird. No, we'll just do 8. Okay. This is the equation of a line. this is the equation of a line, and it will make a straight line if you graph it. It's easier to graph if it's solved for y. So we're going to practice over and over again. Line down through the equal sign, y by itself. So what do we need to get rid of first? Yes. Who said that? Yes, yes. We want to get rid of the x. Now remember, this is an invisible 1x, right? So we're going to subtract 1x because I want the whole thing gone. Whatever I do to one side has to be done to the other, but I want to do it in its own little column. Okay, so I don't try to take 8 minus 1. So now I have negative 7y equals, and right here, if you want to do the switching before the answer, you can switch it right here. You can put the x first, and this is a positive, it doesn't have a negative in front, so it's plus 8. So now you already have your x first, you're not going to have to worry about it, right? And then we still don't have the y by itself. How am I going to get rid of this negative 7? Divide. Good. I'm going to divide by what I want to get rid of, so it's a negative 7. Negative 7. Negative 7. The negatives cancel. The 7s cancel to 1. I have y equals. The negatives cancel. So here I write 1/7 x. Do you see how that works? If the x is on top, you can pull this fraction out and just call it 1/7 x. Do y'all see it? Is that okay with you? Is that okay with you? No.
I don't know where, you know how in the end, where you got the plus 8 and then on top. Yeah. And then you
Did I mess you up when I traded places?
yeah.
Okay, all you do is, because I like the x thing first after the equal sign, I can switch these places. I can just switch them.
Okay.
So I want to write the x thing first,
Oh, okay.
and then I want to write that next. That's the only reason I do that. So if you want to do it like we did on the first problem
Okay.
and switch it later, that's okay.
Okay.
Sort of?
Yeah.
Okay. So are you all okay with finding this fraction? So 1/7 x. Then this is, the negative doesn't cancel out of this. So we have a negative 8/7. Are we okay with that? This- Say one more time.
Go over that one more time.
Okay. Since here was a negative and a negative, so I said it cancels. Here was a negative and a negative, so they cancel to a positive. But here, there was only one negative. So this has to stay negative. Now, it could either be written as plus a negative, which is probably what you were expecting, a little bit more, maybe. I don't know. But a negative in front of a number is the same as a minus. So whichever way feels better for you is fine. Kind of, because I'll explain over and over again. There's some people that are shy about asking. Okay, and so you're the brave one asking the questions, right? Okay, so this equation is solved for y. This equation is solved for y, so we're in this form, right? So tell me what the slope is of this line. 1/7 is our slope. Little bit? Kinda?
I get the slope because it's in front of the X. I'm still trouble a little bit how to work it out.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna do one off of your worksheet. And then there are students in here that haven't done a lot of solving equations, so that's gonna be more difficult. And then I need to review with some of you solving equations. And so all of us are at a different spot right now. Okay, and don't worry about that because that's why I'm up here. Okay, I'm gonna give you another example.
Oh, yeah, I'm gonna go get some coffee too.
Can you wait for one more example? Okay. All right, let's take one off of your worksheet, and then I'm going to release you guys to try on your own. Ready? Number one on this worksheet. This is still packet number 2 that you received in your email last week. And I'm going to work number 1. All we're going to do is find the slope from this equation. And the only way I can find the slope is to solve this equation for y. I need to get my equation in this form. Those of you that came in late, it has to be in this form before I can find out what the slope is. So number 1 on your worksheet for today is 2x minus 4y plus 7 equals 0. Draw the line down through the equal sign. This is what we've been doing since day 1. And circle what we're trying to solve for. That means everything that's not circled on this side, we're going to get rid of. So the first thing I think we should get rid of is this 2x. That's the one that's kind of new to all of you. So let's subtract that 2x. I want it completely gone. Let's get that out of the way. So now we have a negative 4y plus 7 equals, and since this is 0 minus 2x, I'm just going to put the minus 2x. The 0 really doesn't matter when you add 0 or subtract 0. Are y'all okay with this? Any problems? Okay. Then we circle the y again so we can remind ourselves that I want to get rid of the negative 4 and the 7. Now, if y'all remember my story about the best friend and the straggler, we get rid of the straggler first. So we have a plus 7. We want to minus 7. Remember over here, 7 is not an x, so it needs its own place. Now we have negative 4y is still left equals negative 2x minus 7. Everybody okay to where I am? Sort of? Doing okay? Okay. And there's our y. So we have to get rid of this negative 4. That's all we lack. You're not going to add 4 because this is multiplied and we have to do the opposite operation. So we're going to divide by negative 4. And when we divide by everything. So now the negatives cancel, the 4s cancel, and I'm left with 1y, which is exactly what I want. The negatives cancel, and I have 2/4 x. Will 2/4 simplify?
Yes.
Okay, divided top and bottom by 2, which gives me 1/2 x. The negative and negative cancel, so I have a plus 7/4. Now I am to the point that y is by itself. It fits this pattern. So what is the slope of this line? 1/2. Y'all see how this is going to work? And we're only going to work this page today and any pages in this packet that you haven't done yet. So we're going to finish these up and start in a new packet tomorrow. Any questions?
Yes, ma'am. Can we do one more for me? I'm sorry.
I I heard somebody talking. Who is it?
It's Shaniqua.
Okay, what was your question?
Can you do another one for me?
I can.
Thank you.
If you don't need to see this, you can get your coffee now. Was that what you were going to do? Okay, I'll let you do that. Okay, let's go ahead and pick one. Do you have that in front of you, the worksheet?
No, ma'am, I don't.
Okay, I'll just pick one for you.
Yes,
We'll do
ma'am.
number 5. I'm going to do number 5 up here if anybody wants to see it. Number 5. Remember, practice this. We are going to use this a lot. We're going to be solving equations for y a lot. So -1 equals 4x plus 14y. Now, we don't want to let this bother us. Oh, I thought she was going to do that in here. And so here's the y. That means on the y side, I need to get rid of the 14 and the 4x. It doesn't matter if it's on the right-hand side or the left-hand side. Wherever the y is, that's where we're going to work. Okay? You okay, Shaniqua, still?
Yes, ma'am.
You okay, Luanny? You're on mute. Doing okay, Luanny?
Yes, ma'am, I'm good.
There you are. Okay. All right. So we're going to get rid of all of these. This is the straggler. This is the best friend. So let's get rid of the straggler first. And here we need to put a minus 4x, but we don't want it under the 1. So minus 4x. Now we have -4x minus 1 equals 14y. You okay with that now, Shaniqua?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then if I want to solve for y, I'm serious, circling the y really, really helps. I didn't used to do this, and one of my students actually showed me how to do this, and it's really good. Okay. So now if I want the y by itself, I don't subtract 14 because this is multiplied. So I'm going to divide by 14, divide by 14, divide by 14. So now I have, here is my fraction in front of the x, -4/14, but I can divide these by 2. So I have a -2/7 x minus 1/14 equals y. And as long as I have y by itself, here's the mx plus b. So if the y is by itself, what is my slope?
-2/7.
-2/7. Because that is, if I've solved for y, then the number or the coefficient in front of the x is your slope. Yeah? We okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Shaniqua, are you better?
Yes, ma'am.
It needs to be in this form before you can find the slope. And that's all we're doing today. This is page 10, the last page in your packet too. So finish this and any other pages in packet 2 and make sure you understand them. Because tomorrow we're going to move on a little